Hi, this is Colin Hung from Healthcare IT Today. Thanks for joining me on the program. Today we have Phil Leung, Vice President of Product at TigerConnect. Phil, thank you for joining me on the program today.
Happy to be here.
I wanted to ask you, because things have really changed for hospitals on COVID-19, I wanted to ask you what's changed on your side because of the pandemic? And really what I'm specifically looking for right off the bat is, what was the trigger that made you realize, okay, this is not business as usual?
Yeah, that's a good question, Colin. I think thinking back and maybe end of February, early March, I can really, there's a couple of events that really stood out, really hit home for me from both a personal level and for work as well. So, the first thing that came to mind was, we were actually preparing and just heads down on getting ready for HIMSS for the conference. And, it's a pretty big deal for our company, and we just do a lot of preparation leading up to it months in advance. And a lot of product launches are kind of honed around that time too. So we were just remember being really focused around that, and then hearing that it got canceled, and then really shifting gears and thinking about, okay, well, what's plan B and C, So emotionally, there was a little bit of a, quick turn there as well. Personally, our company was one of the few kind of early companies in Los Angeles, even for kind of making the call and moving to a full remote type setup. So kind of making that transition personally, coming home and then hearing that there's a chance that my kids are going to come home from school and everything else. So try to figure things out personally at home. And then finally, what really hit home, I think the biggest piece was, we're pretty in tune with looking at our metrics. We have this dashboard that we keep an eye on every day. And I just remember seeing the numbers keep building up, and it was just like a rocket fuel. And I remember just every day when the dashboard comes out and I'm like seeing the numbers, I'll message my colleagues and saying, are you seeing these numbers? And it seemed like every day it was building on that. And that was quite a ride. It really hit home. We knew how much our customers depend on us for communication across the country. But this really brought it to light when it's kind of lit on fire, and it just seeing the numbers accelerate and that kind of engagement and usage going as well. So to give you to bring this to light a little bit more is that, we recently just celebrated a milestone, which is hitting 5 million messages sent, right? So, but to go from 4 million to 5 million, it took us about 160 days. And that was a record for the company in itself. And we were just celebrating that 5 million. And then because of the crisis, it went from 5 to 6 in 10 days. So that type of acceleration was something I personally hadn't seen before. And, this kind of combination of all these kind of factors coming into play really hit home for me.
And based on that volume, Phil, did you guys do anything differently, or did you guys decide to approach development a little differently because of what's happening out there with your clients?
Oh yeah, I think the numbers rising was just kind of organic based on the crisis and just the need for more collaboration and more communication across the country, all the health systems that we serve. So it wasn't anything that we've launched or anything that triggered this. It was all because of that heightened sense of need for our platform.
And so what did you decide to do differently? Did you accelerate your programming? Did you do more releases?
Yeah. So, at that time, just thinking back, there was a lot of unknowns. There was a lot of questions, not just for business, but just society, right? And so our focus was really around how can we serve our customers better? Like, how can we help them with the fight in the front lines? And wasn't really thinking about much more than that. And then so, with that in mind, we kind of did some check-ins with some of our customers, and it came back really clear, like, what do you need from us? And they were all asking about virtual care and tooling to support it. And so, with that in mind, I remember going through the weekend on a Saturday, and it was, me and our CEO, Brad, and CTO, Tim. Three of us were really just brainstorming of like, okay, now that we know this is the current landscape, what can we do? What should we do? And it was a combination of, offsetting some of the initiatives that it's going on in flight, to even a complete pause or slowing down, and different combinations that we looked into. And ultimately we just thought, hey, we really need to be all hands on deck. If we want to deliver timely support to our customers, it's really now. So we ultimately made the choice to pause every other kind of major initiatives on the roadmap and to focus on this telehealth product line that we've already started, but now we just need to accelerate that. This was something, specifically, it was a piece on adding video conference capability. That was something later on in the summer we were going to add. We decided to just really go all hands on deck and accelerate that effort.
And I understand that you actually pulled off a pretty incredible feat relative to that video conferencing or that video capability, because I'd heard that it was going to take, the plan was to take 6 months to build it, and then you guys did it in one. Can you maybe walk us through that?
Yeah. I think it became a real clear focus for us. If, knowing that, okay, what are we adding? The feature is the video conference item, right? So then it was really taking an exercise, the common term of minimal viable product, right? But we took it another step, and thinking it's a very minimal viable. What is it going to take? Again, it was really helpful to think of our customers in the front lines. What's the minimal function that we need to provide to help them get through this? And so that level of clarity was helpful. And I just remember going through a bunch of exercises of like, hey, let's strip that out, or let's defer this and think about this advancement later. Specifically, one step we took, or one cut we took was, since we're both on mobile and web as a product, we were thinking, what, if we were to even divide that up, maybe we can do mobile first as a feature, then web will come along later, right? Things like that. Another example might be, maybe we'll take care of direct one-to-one conversation first, and then we'll then make it more complex and do group conversation. So taking some really hard cuts there to be laser focused on delivering something within the timeline that fits what we need.
And did you, in order to meet that sort of compressed timeline, was there anything that you eliminated or compressed? Like, did you get rid of some red tape or anything to get that done?
Definitely. I think it gave us a chance to kind of think about this kind of preconceived ideas of what needed to be done and what are dependencies and the processes that were in place. Like, for example, we would usually, once we have a spec and we review it with engineers, we would come up with a project plan and estimates and things like that. But when a project is compressed to a few weeks, what's the point of a project plan? Or what's the point of other ceremonies? Like, we will do weekly meetings. No, we need to meet, twice a day. So if we're going to be that tight in our kind of communication collaboration, some of these, common things that we need, like you said, red tape, is no longer needed. So it gave us that opportunity to really think through what exactly do we need for this mission.
And did you do anything special to motivate your teams? Extra donuts, extra coffee, or anything like that?
We definitely did a lot of that. But, thinking about it, I think the DNA of our company is quite amazing as far as how we're aligned and motivated in the same way. I think we all kind of joined the company with a similar type of sentiment and spirit, in that we feel like we can play a part in helping the industry. And I think this crisis really gave us that even ultimate opportunity to jump in. I can really sense that across the floor and even virtually across the company. It's like, okay, well, this is our opportunity. Definitely the other oomph that I would add along the way to kind of drive up motivation also is really bring to light the the real world needs out there, like things that I'm hearing on the ground, right? With the CMIO of this health system and CTO of the other, and thinking about their stories and really presenting those stories back to the product engineering team so they can kind of feel, I'm really, sweating it out here, and it's because of fulfilling these benefits. So.
What advice, Phil, would you give to someone who's at a different company who is also looking to compress or accelerate their development? What advice would you give to someone like that?
Yeah, I would say embrace radical change, right? Sometimes there's radical circumstances that require you to meet it with that radical change. So what does that mean? That means being flexible. Some of the stuff that I talked about of, don't be afraid to kind of question stuff that's established. Is it necessary for the mission that I'm in right now? And really stripping that out, right? So like you said, it could be processes, but it could be also just simply the way things were done. Like one example could be, I usually wait for design to be complete 100% before me as an engineer gets started.
Right.
Well, what if you get started based on, you got to start somewhere, right? But it doesn't mean your design, you have to see the full view for you to get going. So if the point is to keep momentum and keep progress, maybe that's the way you do things, but it's okay to kind of question that. So.
Awesome. Phil, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate everything you shared with us today.
No problem. Happy to talk to you.
And good luck to everything you're doing. I'm sure the next few weeks are just going to be just as fun and just as compressed for you and your teams.
Yeah, we're go right now. So
this is Colin Hung here at Healthcare IT Today. Thanks for listening.